The Bible is most definitely an authentic book, but then again, so is the Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I checked up authentic to see what it might actually mean, and that's the definition. Genuine, undisputed origin, not a copy. And there's an example of its usage there. Notice that the definition does not include the word true. Authentic does not mean true. Here's some synonyms. Genuine, original, real, actual, pucker, bona fide, true. There's true, quite a long way down the list. And if you look further down, based on facts, way down the list. Now, Brian's presentation was an attempt to add credibility to the Bible. I suspect that he would really want authentic to mean true. He said it. He's a committed Christian and he thinks the Bible is the true word of God.
Brian went on to outline what he called the hallmarks of authenticity. Given that Brian is extolling the virtues of the Bible, surely these hallmarks should distinguish it from other scriptures that also claim to provide explanations, to be the source of morality, and to offer salvation. So let's keep in mind these other religious texts when we consider the hallmarks. Texts like the Quran and the Book of Mormon. He gave us 5 hallmarks. Here is the first one. Can we apply this to the Quran and the Book of Mormon? I think so. Unless proven otherwise, proposes that we should tolerate falsehood for an indefinite period. Just think what this covers. From Aesop's fables to Grimm's fairy tales, they should all be supposed to be true until proven false. Unless proven otherwise, fosters ignorance and exposes us to fraud and lies. It's a bad policy. In the first half of 2017, more than 237,000 counterfeit banknotes with a value of more than £4.88 million were removed from the UK streets. We prosecute perpetrators as criminals. Brian proposes that we should harbour deceivers. Waiting until a claim is discovered to be a lie is no way to determine truth. It's shifting the onus of proof. That's something that theists commonly do. We've all heard them say, "You can't prove there's no God." Well, I don't have to, unless you have to prove there's no fairies at the bottom of my garden. Setting out to believe something until it's proven wrong is unscientific. Check out Bertrand Russell's teapot. That's a good example of the inability to prove an absence. Now for the second hallmark of authenticity. It's that documents should be considered true unless proven otherwise. It's the same as the first hallmark. And can we apply this to the Quran and the Book of Mormon? Definitely. How long should we wait for something to be discredited? This is looking for support, not for challenge. If scientists did that, they would believe their hypotheses and would not bother to investigate them. We would have discovered nothing and have invented no technology. Neither Answers in Genesis speakers nor I would be able to use computers for presentations. At least science has an active process for detecting fraud: peer review. The third hallmark of authenticity refers to large numbers of witnesses. But these are not people who saw something. They are people who believe something. And these are reports, ancient reports of people who believe something. Popularity does not correspond to truth. Everyone once believed that the Earth was the centre of the cosmos, and we can apply this to the Quran and the Book of Mormon. Being able to recite the scriptures was a good earner in biblical times, and you can still do preaching and take a collection. So the authors obviously wanted a gripping yarn to tell. That's why the Bible contains elements of jaw-dropping wonder, which had been shown to please a crowd over the centuries. Items like a virgin birth, resurrection, and miracles. Those features appear in many religions. But we don't actually have witnesses. We only have ancient reports of witnesses. Actually, I'm being rather kind. Brian said 70 years elapsed between Jesus' existence and the writing of the Gospels. I think it's less than that, but that's in his favour. Until then, the stories were passed by word of mouth, with all the associated Chinese whispers and fishermen's tales added to keep the audience's interest. Were the Gospels verified independently by people who did not personally stand to gain? No. There are just two non-Christian Roman historians who mention Jesus: Josephus and Tacitus. They didn't say much about him, nothing about virgin birth, miracles, or resurrection, and neither of them was born until 30 years after the crucifixion. Imagine the laughter in court if they were to be presented as witnesses. A hearsay witness is repeating something he was told by somebody, somewhen. We don't give them credit in court. By the way, even eyewitnesses can be poor. We've recently discovered that 1 in 50 of us is face blind. There's a name for it, it's called prosopagnosia. And those of you who came to our event in February, when we had Josh Davis, he was a speaker on the super recognizers, and he told us about these few people who are super non-recognizers. So we cannot rely on witnesses. Now the fourth hallmark of authenticity was consistency. Agreement of evidence within the text of the Bible. That's just laughable. Genesis 1 disagrees with Genesis 2. And going onwards, the Bible contradicts itself and reveals its ignorance throughout. There is no agreement. There is disagreement. But could we apply the consistency test to these rival scriptures? Yes, we could. Anyway, text is not evidence. It's a report. And it's not hard to get consistency in text. If you want to get consistency, get a good editor. Agatha Christie's convoluted novels were very consistent, unlike the Bible. The fifth hallmark of authenticity was reliability by confirming with
matching with known events or dated artifacts. Could we apply that to these books? We probably could. It may be possible to date artifacts thanks to radiometrics, but that tells us little about what actually happened at the time, other than pottery was made, writing went on, people died, houses were built, fires were lit. These pieces of evidence can say nothing about the events that occurred. They can provide no clue as to virgin birth, resurrection, raising of the dead, or miracles. No connection whatsoever with historically dated artifacts. And the only way we could get evidence of known events like those wonderful things is if we invented the time machine. So far, it looks unlikely that we'll ever be able to do that. But we can't consider historical events all to be true. They range from doubtful, like for example, King Canute commanding the tide to stay back, and King Alfred burning the cakes, to the very dubious. These things are not reliable. And there are no independent sources that corroborate the Bible. No. So, let's take a look at these hallmarks of authenticity. Is the Bible, is it authentic according to those? Should documents be considered to be true unless proven otherwise? No. Should authors be considered truthful unless proven otherwise? No. Do large numbers of witnesses add credibility? No. Is there consistency of evidence within the text of the Bible? No. Is reliability confirmed by matching with known events or dated artifacts? No. Let's see if we can apply the hallmarks of authenticity to Harry Potter. Is it possible to consider Harry Potter to be true unless proven otherwise? Yeah. Should authors be considered, is it possible to consider that J.K. Rowling is truthful until proven otherwise? Sure, I'm sure she's a lovely lady.
Except she never said that she was telling the truth.
So
She never said she was telling the truth.
Well, can we do that?
Yeah, I'll leave it to the end.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't have very good hearing, you see, so we must. Do large numbers of witnesses add credibility? Well, large numbers of witnesses saw the movies of Harry Potter. Does that make them true? Should we consider consistency of evidence within the text? Well, no, because it's just a sign of a good editor. And what about matching it with known events or dated artifacts? We could say that, yeah, it's set partly in London. You know, there's a railway station that's mentioned, isn't there? That's real. Does it make it true? No. Here's the railway station, and there's Harry Potter charging at the wall to get on the train. Does that mean it's true? No. So, I'm not just going to criticize, I'm going to offer some help too. So how should we judge books? Okay? First of all, we've got to accept that they are not ipso facto evidence. They are records. They are records of somebody's thoughts. Even the books that I've written, and I've got some of them here. This is why I use my pseudonym, Elliot George. The foreword of this one is by Alex O'Connor, the Cosmic Skeptic. a young man who's very bright, got a fantastic career ahead of him, and he's coming to speak to us next month. This is another one of mine. That one's illustrated, this one isn't, so this one's cheaper. So, thinking about books, particularly ancient books, they can record facts, but they can also record fiction, or a mixture. Here are some books. The Da Vinci Code is set in various known locations. There's scenes in Italy, there's scenes in London, there's scenes in Washington. It's factual to that extent. Does it make it true? No. So, in the ancient world, it's probable that all the stories were sexed up in the interest of making a gripping tale, because in those days, storytelling or prophesying was a street performance, in the same way that busking and pavement artistry are today. It was a job. You could earn your living doing it. And that's how the Gospels stories got told for at least 30 years before being written down. And as I said, you can still tell a story in Picture Collection. That's not stopping. In fact, Buddhist monks own nothing. They rely entirely on hospitality through giving out wisdom. Now let's take a look at some books that you might expect to be more reliable. Let's take a look at history books. Well, the books are records of thoughts, and this is the introduction to a series on history that was hosted by, what's his name? Ian Hislop. And this is how he introduced his TV series. That's history. Is it reliable? No. It's not science. It's rarely based on evidence, often only on inference, which is the lower standard. It sometimes calls on science. Sometimes a historian will ask a scientist to date a shroud, for example, or some old papyrus leaflets, for example. But that doesn't make them true, it just confirms their age. That's the scientific input. But all beliefs are based on ancient books of doctrines. And in some cases, the book isn't so ancient. This one was written in the late 1900s. That's the Book of Mormon. And they're referred to as scriptures. It just means writings. It's a special word for an ordinary act. And that makes me suspicious. Why is that necessary? It's because it's to make it sound important. Capitalizing pronouns is another thing that goes on in these books, or certainly in the Bible. And that's just an abuse of English grammar. I mean, what would you think about of me if I wrote about Charles Darwin, and every time I use the pronoun he or him, I use the capital H? Would you think I was biased? Would you think I was trying to big him up in your minds? You should be suspicious. So books cannot be relied upon unless, oh, here's a supposed example of archaeology, which is somehow or other linked to the historicity of the Bible. How? That's a house. It doesn't say anything about virgin birth. It just says we built houses. So you can't rely on the Bible unless you consider the archaeology of Athens to be proof of the godliness of Dionysus. I don't think there's anyone here who would do that. Or the relics of Rome to be proof of the deity of Mithras. Relics do not prove anything except age. So why don't people argue the case? They argue the case for Jesus. They don't currently argue the case for Mithras or Dionysus. Why? I'll tell you. Because you can't make any money arguing for Mithras or Dionysus. Nowadays, we don't just have books. They were probably the first means of recording thoughts. But nowadays, we have tape recorders. Well, we've moved on, haven't we? We have flash memory sticks. And we have cameras, video cameras. But our courts of law, quite rightly, don't accept tape recordings and video evidence because they know it can be tampered with. In order to become acceptable as evidence, closed-circuit TV recordings have to be validated. The recording equipment has to be locked, and everyone handling it, key holder, everyone handling it and bringing it to the court has to sign a handover so that we have a chain of responsibility. We know it hasn't been tampered with. People we can rely on because their jobs depend upon it, the police. They have to sign to show that the CCTV video is good evidence. And that didn't happen to the scriptures. The scriptures were written by different people, added to, plagiarized from earlier religions, and then edited and compiled, and then translated and retranslated. This is not the way to handle evidence. So how do you verify a book? Well, here's a book. You can verify that one easily. Make a few calls. If the person who picks up has his name in the book is probably accurate. Here's another one. Do the experiments it describes. If the experiments work the way the book claims, it's probably accurate. You can't do this to the Bible. So the Bible is unverifiable. So, finishing off, the credibility of the Bible, the authenticity of the Bible, is undermined from beginning to end by inconsistencies, displays of ignorance, vaulting ignorance, like the firmament is a dome above us with holes that let light through from the stars. I mean, anybody who writes that stuff knows bugger all. And also, they contain tall tales that defy known science. We've got no reliable evidence of a man having come back from the dead after 3 days. Yes, we can resuscitate them after a few minutes. They may or may not suffer brain damage if the blood circulation hasn't been going for up to 8 minutes. But we can't bring back the dead. It's a tall tale. And then Bart Ehrman. You may or may not know about Bart Ehrman. He is a Christian theologian who himself acknowledges that the Gospels are not reliable sources